after we mine uranium anywhere in the world, it has to go to the next step, which is conversion. And then the next step beyond that is enrichment. And Russia really dominates the world in those two steps with conversion and enrichment. And so as the world moves away from Russia, whether that be oil and gas or uranium, which the U.S. is working on right now, the Western world just really struggles to make up that supply, conversion and enrichment. So it's taken a long time for the Western converters and the Western enrichers to stand up and say, hey, we can backfill that supply if it gets cut off from Russia. And, this week has been a very exciting week in the uranium space. On Monday of this week, the House in Congress, U.S. Congress, passed a bill that would cut off Russian imports of uranium into the U.S. That's important because the U.S. is still the largest consumer of uranium in the world. And so that was cut off by the House. Now it has to go to the Senate. Yesterday, they tried to pass that in the Senate without a vote. They needed a unanimous consent to do that. 99 of 100 senators said, yeah, we approve of that. There was one senator that was a fly in the ointment that said, no, we need to go to full debate and discussion on this. And so that's where it's headed now.
Junior miners this year or last year have really struggled because everyone was putting their money into lithium. Lithium, if I had a lithium project in Guinea, well, I would have had people banging on the door, chucking me their money. Lithium's cooled down now. A lot of people have lost a lot of money on lithium because of the pullback in the price. So I think people are having a bit of a re-rate of their portfolios. They're thinking, okay, look, I've put a lot of money into lithium. A lot of people made money. A lot of people lost money. But now they're having a sort of re-rate time where they're thinking, okay, what's next, right? I think your general retail investor and some of the institutions, they're happy to invest in junior mining, but they've got to have a good story and they've got to see the upside, which makes a lot of sense. The problem we have at the moment is there is a lot of bad projects out there getting project financing just because of the commodity or the neurology. I've seen projects recently get financed just because they're supposedly a long strike from a mine. When you look at their geology and their license maps, they're nowhere near the strike of the geology. They're close to a mine, but they're in different geology. And they're the sort of companies that are getting money through the door. And that needs to change. And I think, your general investor needs to sort of wake up to that and do more solid technical due diligence on their investments. And I realize that not everyone has the ability to do that, but certainly the institutions do. They have teams of geologists working for them. They need to delve down and look at projects, in a solid geological way. And that would, that also comes back the other way. I mean, companies like Asara, and there's a few other companies on the ASX that are of the same fate as us. We have got solid projects that will become mines in the future, whether that's Asara that does it or someone else, that aren't getting any love.
Steel production is one of the most pollutant industries. At the moment, for every ton of steel that is being produced, around 800 kilograms of coal is required. This would generate around something between 1.8 to 2.2 tons of carbon emission for every ton of steel. There are around 400 steel facilities globally that they need to do basically some expansion and reinvestment in the next 20 years. So a lot of these companies have to look at, are they want to go into the same route of high emission steel production, or want to be more sustainable and produce steel in a different way? So there are a few important factors. Green steel production needs low-cost green electricity. It also needs very important element, which is iron ore that has high quality with low impurities. At the moment, majority of the iron ore productions globally, including all the irons, majority of the irons produced in Brazil and Australia, they don't have the grade or level of impurities that is required for green steel production. And in Canada, in Newfoundland and Labrador, where our project is located, we have the right ore, we have access to very low cost green steel production. We have significant amount of source of water that is rare other places globally.
And the reality is, critical minerals are the building blocks of the new green future. And we have a choice. We have a very, very simple choice. We can, if we carry on the trajectory we're doing and we're burning stuff and we're destroying the world, we are going to destroy this world, right? So we've got a choice. To stop that, we've got either A, go back to caves, or B, go forward to Star Trek. Now, I think people like their mobile phones and their cars and televisions a bit too much to go back to caves. Although I know a few people, and myself included, think that might be a bit of fun. But you know, the reality is we have to go forward. So how do we do that? We need critical minerals, and we need to change the way that we secure those critical minerals and the speed at which we secure those critical minerals if we have a shot of meeting the required actions to stop climate change.
They sort of don't have much to do, you know, when the wet season's on, you know, so we're going to be looking for other copper projects or resources that we can bolt on so we can continually work through these in the different seasons. So that's part of the strategy now. We're out looking, we're talking to people about, and we have a sort of own criteria. We want to not just go and peg anything just that has a sniff of copper. We want to say we like brownfield projects, you know, the old copper mines that maybe, that, you know, that's our expertise, developing old mines or brownfield mines and getting them back into production. So we'll be wanting to go down that path a bit and explore it without overextending ourselves, but just do it, you know, in a controlled fashion. So, because the opportunity's there, you know. There's a lot of micro caps or small caps companies now that are, you know, the equity market's tightened right up, and they're either not looking at their copper resource, they're looking for rare earths or something, or things like that. So we're talking to a number of companies like that to see whether we can go into copper, because fundamentally we're a copper business and we've got a good resource to build on, and we think the future's obviously bright for copper. That's just a no-brainer.
The whole world is changing how it does things in so many areas of our lives, and the sort of, let's call it the so-called developed world. And I think, you know, in a lot of African countries, the aspiration is there that mining should change also, not only in terms of employment locally, but also skill development and technological sort of advancement through the building of factories and everything else. Very, very qualified and competent Africans that have been all over the world, they can actually do this stuff. You know, it's, you know, well, some of it is complicated, but we think in terms of building a value chain and creating employment and creating that skill that can then sort of like spread through the communities in other areas. You got to remember that in a lot of these rural communities, in terms of bringing in proper infrastructure, usually you need to have a host reason that will make sense to make that economic development, and usually it's mining. And the most, for me, you know, sustainability, you know, you've obviously got your environmental aspect of it, but also in terms of social cohesion and everything else, creating those real jobs, but the high-skilled jobs, very important, and well-paid jobs, you know, and so and the great thing about places like Namibia, South Africa, to a certain extent, Botswana, is because of their history in mining. You got resident stuff. Now, I always believe in meshing cultures because we all have so much to learn from each other in terms of how we manage and how we see things and how we appreciate and understand technology. But for most part, you want to employ most of the local people as much as you can to give them that opportunity and widen your sort of footprint in a country.
It's literally a case of a man with a digger stockpiling it and then trucking it to wherever we decide to build the plant. So that part of the process is only about 5% of the operating cost. So they're mining and trucking. So compared to a conventional mining operation, that's a very significant difference. So it's all about the process, and we have a patented sulfuric acid leaching process, which is very suitable for the material in the lake. And it had previously been shown to produce 4N. So when you're in the high purity alumina space, it's about producing stuff that is 99.99% pure. That's the benchmark. So that's 4 nines or 4N, as they shorten it to. And so that had been shown at small scale to work. And so our job now is to try and make sure that that works at the larger scale. You can break it down into 5 simple stages, and the first 3 we announced October. Everything was sort of on track, and we've got the last 2 stages are in process at the moment, and we should have those results through within the next 4 to 8 weeks or something like that. There's still quite a bit of a turnaround issues at the lab, but hopefully then we can demonstrate that we've got the right material at the end of it, and then we'll definitely be ticking a big box there and moving forward.
What your